Imagine that you open your eyes in the middle of the night. Not sure of what woke you, but after looking around with drowsy eyes, you notice a shadow by the end of the bed. You get alarmed and try to move, but you're stuck. You're completely paralyzed. The shadow that reveals itself to be some sort of creature crawls up into your bed and continues towards you slowly. As its clawed body crawls on top of you, you feel how the weight of it makes it harder and harder for you to breathe. You notice that it has human-like features, but severely distorted. The creature that looks just like it was dug up from your deepest nightmares is now a few centimeters away from your face. You're terrified. You try to open your mouth and let out a scream, but all that'll come out is a faint breath. The creature opens its mouth, revealing a set of sharp teeth. It starts to whisper to you that it'll murder you, that you're alone and that you'll never see the daylight again. And just as the monster is about to swallow you whole, you're awake again. Congratulations, or condolences. You've just experienced something called a sleep paralysis, which is probably one of the most terrifying things you could experience. The feeling of helplessness you feel while being terrorized by what seems like demons could traumatize anyone. But don't worry, you're probably not being possessed by a demon, because the science behind this is that it's a state where the part of your brain that controls your consciousness is awake, but your body isn't. And since we breathe much slower while sleeping, and your brain thinks that you're awake, it will draw the conclusion that you have trouble breathing, which can result in chilling, blood-curdling, and spine-chilling hallucinations. And even though afterwards you might feel like you accidentally slipped into the fifth circle of hell for what's felt like hours, it usually doesn't last for more than a couple of minutes. If you have sleeping problems, a mental illness, or if you're taking medications, you're at a higher risk of experiencing sleep paralysis. And since I tick all of these 3 boxes, I have them quite regularly. Yay! So I thought I'd share some of the creepiest sleep paralysis I've had. It was during a visit to my mother when it happened the first time. I remember going to bed as usual and trying to fall asleep. I felt my body getting lighter and lighter as I drifted away further and further from consciousness. All of a sudden, I felt something pull my cover off, and I woke up immediately. Well, that's strange, I thought. I just drew the conclusion that it had to be one of the cats who decided to prank me. I turned around and attempted to fall back asleep, when I felt something grab my leg and pull me down. This time I woke up terrified, and desperately looked around for some kind of explanation as my heart beat rapidly. It was late, so I knew I had to sleep. I scrolled through Tumblr for a couple of minutes to calm down, until I felt my eyes slowly closing as I drifted back to sleep. When I woke up the 3rd time, I felt like I had actually slept for a while, but something still woke me up yet again. This time it was different. I tried to move my hand or turn my head, but to my absolute terror, I was completely paralyzed, and the only thing that I could still use was my eyes. When I looked down on my body, I noticed glowing white eyes staring back at me from the bedside. Small, dark creatures seemed to stand and look directly at me. I helplessly saw them grab my feet and slowly pull me off the bed, and as my panic rose, I felt them getting more and more rough, and my vision getting more and more blurry. Suddenly, I just woke up. I was completely drenched in sweat and breathing heavily. I was so confused and scared. This particular sleep paralysis kept returning with the little critters tugging at my body. But the weird thing was that it would only come to me when I slept in that particular bed. Another sleep paralysis I had took place when I lived in the cabin by the sea. I was particularly anxious and sleep deprived during this time of my life, and that could be a huge factor as to why I kept having these sleep paralysis so often. It was an afternoon when I was about to take a nap. It was a soothing dizziness kind of sleep. Everything felt soft and warm. I was calm and content. I felt like I wasn't awake nor asleep, but rather something perfectly in between. Suddenly, I heard words being spoken. It felt like it was just centimeters away from my ear.
You're gonna do great things in your life.
It was a man's voice, a soft and calm murmur.
So far.
I wasn't scared. In fact, I felt very comforted by his words as he continued. The voice made me more conscious, though. I realized that I was alone at home, and hearing someone else would mean there was an intruder with me. Suddenly, I started to feel frightened. It was a complete shift in my situation. It felt like whoever was talking to me realized that I was getting scared.
Why aren't you listening? I'm gonna hurt you. You can ignore me. You can't ignore
It got more and more distorted and started to sound less and less like a human.
Why aren't you listening?
But it was so loud and so close I could feel every single goosebump on my skin. I closed my eyes as hard as I could and tried to calm down, which worked, because I woke up. Needless to say, it took a very long while until I could sleep properly again. The most terrifying sleep paralysis yet happened to me one night when I still lived in my father's basement. A sound woke me up, something that sounded like someone was breathing next to me. When I opened my eyes, I could see the motion of the covers moving up and down while hearing a faint but distinct breathing. My first thought was that maybe my brother or sister had come down to sleep in my bed with me, but since that's never happened before, I quickly erased that as an option. This thing was even smaller than my siblings. It was probably the size of a 5-year-old child, and the top of its head was completely black, almost looking like it had been burned. I immediately froze. I realized that this was not a human, and that if I didn't lay perfectly still, it would wake up. That's when I felt it, a warm feeling on the back of my neck. I was laying facing towards the wall, which made me, to my absolute horror, realize that someone was standing behind me. I didn't even get to grasp that I was paralyzed, because at this point I was too scared to even try to move. I felt the instinct where you don't want to trigger the hunting instinct of a predator, where you know that the second you move, you're dead, came to the surface in the deepest part of my animal brain. I closed my eyes as hard as I could, and that's when I got a mental image of what stood behind me. As involuntarily as it was, I didn't even need to look at the creature to know that she was the mother of the burned child that lied next to me. The creature, who looked very much like a distorted and emaciated woman, was just centimeters away from me. I felt her empty eye sockets facing directly towards me. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. I instantly knew that she was just protecting her child, and that if I moved, she would consume me. I felt completely helpless. All I could do was to lay still, breathe as quietly as I possibly could until it passed. I woke up the next day feeling completely drained, traumatized and relieved that I woke up after feeling very unsure if I would ever live to see another day. These were only 3 of my sleep paralysis. I don't have them as often anymore, thankfully. I still wake up sometimes and realize that I'm paralyzed, but I manage to stay calm and not open my eyes. A tip is to try to move your fingers, your tongue, or your toes. That will help you to wake up. It has saved me more times than I can count. Remember to keep a good sleeping hygiene. Eat regularly, but not too late, as it has been proven that late night meals will increase the risk of experiencing sleep paralysis. And remember that if you ever find yourself awake but unable to move, don't ever, under any circumstances, open your eyes. Can you believe that I thought I was going to have this done by Halloween? I guess that's just how it is when you have work and school at the same time. Have you ever had a sleep paralysis? Please let me know what you experienced in the comment section. And thanks for watching.